Welcome to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcast on the EU pig meat sector.
With a population of around 150 million, there are more pigs than any other livestock category in the EU. The sector is supported by the Common Agriculture Policy, but is facing serious challenges.
Its negative impact on the environment, concerns about animal health, and an uncertain international context need to be addressed if the sector is to become more sustainable in the future and match the EU's green ambitions. Stay with us.
Let's begin with some facts. The EU pig meat sector alone accounts for nearly half the total EU meat production. The main producers are Germany, Spain and France. Between them, they represent half of the EU's total production. But Denmark, the Netherlands and Poland also have large pig populations.
The EU is the world's second biggest producer of pork after China and the biggest exporter of pork and pork products. It exports about 13% of its global production, most of it to East Asia and China in particular.
And exports to this country have increased by 80% in the last year as a result of the African swine fever outbreak, which decimated millions of animals and pushed prices to a peak in early 2020.
Indeed, the pig sector is also a very diverse sector with huge differences in methods and sizes of farms, from very small farms keeping just a few pigs to large industrial installations with thousands of them, and the trend goes in favour of the larger holdings.
The enthusiasm for organic farming has not really reached the sector yet, with only 1% of all pig farming in the EU being organic. That is an even smaller proportion than that of bovines, sheep or poultry. But how is the sector organised? Let's have a look.
Pork is covered by the Common Market Organisation, which regulates trade conditions and supports the sector in times of crisis, as in 2017, when the African swine fever outbreak forced Polish pig farmers out of business and the EU stepped in to support them.
The sector has never been subjected to linked payments or production quotas, and only in very limited cases have private storage schemes been used to stabilise pig markets during times of crisis.
In terms of financial support, pig farmers can benefit from the rural development funding under the Common Agricultural Policy, for example, to invest in new equipment to modernise their farms and make them more sustainable.
The sector is subject to a large number of EU rules and regulations covering such aspects as environmental protection, food safety and public health, organic production, animal health and welfare. However, the reality is somewhat different.
It is. Most pigs in the EU are bred and kept in conditions that might make us think twice about eating pork meat. Small cages, barren environments and mutilations, such as routine castration or tail docking, cause intense distress and lead to piglet mortality. And the transport and slaughter conditions are not much better.
No, they aren't. This is why the European Commission has been and keeps on working with Member States to ensure that pig farmers respect EU rules to prevent animal suffering and ensure their welfare.
Another major challenge facing the sector is the air, soil and water pollution caused by intensive pig farming, which takes a heavy toll on the environment.
The main direct environmental impact of pig production relates to the manure produced, but good storage can reduce the amount of ammonia released. Other environmental problems include the spreading of heavy metals, pesticides and bacteria that can cause disease in humans.
So how can the sector become more sustainable in the future? Stay with us.
Well, there's no escaping the trend towards greener and more sustainable agriculture and food systems. The European Green Deal, the new Commission's flagship policy, and its farm to fork strategy will push for more sustainable food systems from production to consumption and address other problems,
such as the need to cut dependency on pesticides and antimicrobials, reduce excess fertilisation, increase organic farming, improve animal welfare and reverse biodiversity loss.
And let's not forget that negotiations on a new common agricultural policy are ongoing and may force a revision of legislation relevant to the pig sector, including its contribution to climate change mitigation and adaptation and on animal welfare.
In the past 2 years, the European Parliament has been calling for higher animal welfare standards, as well as stricter controls and tougher penalties for those who don't comply with the rules.
So let's keep an eye on the negotiations and hope that in the future the EU pig sector will be more in line with Europe's green ambitions.
You're listening to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcast.